Hey everybody, and welcome to the DarkCast. I'm your host, Jonathan Miley, and thank you so much for listening. You may be wondering where the DarkCast has been for a year and a half, and we will get into that in just a moment. That's actually what our first segment in this episode is going to be about. Joel Zerlip and I have a conversation about where the podcast has been and where it's going. Our second segment is with Alan Kessinger, who reviewed Red Dead Redemption 2, and we talk about how it compares to other open-world games. Our final segment is between me and Brian Tyler, as we talk about the state of superheroes in movies and video games, and kind of what we're excited about for the future. So those are your three segments. You can find timestamps in the show notes for this episode. If you want to find out more information about the DarkCast, head on over to darkstation.com. There you can find our other podcast, DarkCast Interviews. You can find video game reviews, previews, and features. And you can follow us on Twitter at darkstation_com. Find us on Facebook. You can email us at podcast@darkstation.com. And, subscribe to the podcast. We're on iTunes. So, without further ado, thank you so much for listening. Now on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the DarkCast.
How did that feel? Like, did you remember what the words were? It was a little bit of a slow intro too, so I'm like, did he?
It was.
My podcast is on? Like,
No. I've waited like a year and a half to say those words. I'm your host, Jonathan Miley, by the way. Joining me right now is Joel Zerlip, CEO, Editor-in-Chief, Man About Town for DarkStation.com.
It's so good to be back. I've also been waiting a year and a half. We have been talking about kind of this moment for almost a year and a half. It is crazy to be here, and I'm like almost without words right now because it's
right.
We've done so many episodes of this show. This show has such a long history. The site has such a long history that, like, coming back and starting this up again is like coming back to your favorite book, your favorite movie, your favorite video game. Like, it feels right.
Yep. Yeah, it does. It's giving up the DarkCast was actually I feel like it's one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my entire life. So for people that don't know, DarkCast is the podcast for DarkStation.com. We ran, 200, something like that, episodes. And at the beginning of 2017, we set off on kind of an adventure to interview everybody that was on the site. And we had a really great time with that. But as we kind of got towards the end of, interviewing you, Joel, me, Brian, who will be back on the show. He's just not here right now, and we'll explain why in just a moment. But as we kind of got towards the end of that, I realized I had no idea what to do with the podcast after talking to everybody on the site. So we did this whole big Meet DarkStation thing, and that was a lot of fun. But I realized that I hadn't really known what to do with the podcast for a while. I took over in 2012 when the original host, Michael Perry, he started his own company. He had a child, and the podcast was just not something he could do anymore. And so I took over and had all these grand ambitions, and I think we did a lot of really fun stuff. Originally, the show was modeled after Giant Bomb. We would talk about news, we would talk about reviews, and we would talk about what we've been playing. And I kind of wanted to talk more about topics kind of in the industry. And so we talked about, one of my favorite episodes early on, we talked about what does it mean to be an RPG? And by the end of like an hour-long discussion of like 5-6 different people, we determined that Forza Horizon is an RPG. And, you know, that might be even more true today with Forza Horizon 4 being out. I don't know.
Have you played Forza Horizon 4?
I've not.
Okay. I haven't either, and I really want to because I don't like the mainline Forza series, but I really enjoy the Horizon series.
I love the Horizon series, but I've kind of gotten to the point where, like, even
You've
though
seen the Horizon?
Yeah, like, I really enjoy them, but there's so much to do in those games, I never finish them. And so when a new one comes out, it's like, okay, I could play this new version of this game, or I could just kind of play the other one, which, you know, for my purposes, they're probably not that different.
Right.
So that's my favorite racing series of all time. Absolutely. It's fantastic, but I've not delved into 4 yet because I didn't really even delve that far into 3, though I did play the Hot Wheels.
I was going to say you were a big fan of that one. Yeah,
that is really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did kind of crazy topics like that. We talked about the representation of women in video games, and we tried to cover some heavy-hitting things. But when at that time, I think there were a lot of people on the website that, you know, they were either recently out of high school or recently out of college, and everybody kind of had a lot of time. And as just life goes on, people have more responsibilities. It's harder and harder to get 5 people to sit down for like 2 hours at a time.
Absolutely.
And by the end of 2016, most of the show was me and Brian talking about superhero stuff, which, granted, is a lot of fun, but it's not what I wanted the show to be.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that time has given you and I, Jonathan, and kind of everyone that was on the DarkCast was we tried to model it after other podcasts, and then we went to a topic-based podcast, and one of the struggles we had was kind of tended to agree with each other a lot. And so it just became these very long-winded ways of talking about topics, and some we did really well and some we didn't do as well. And I think one of the hopes of, and one of the things that I think we've thought about a lot since the last episode was like, how do we make sure we find our own identity, but still also stay true to the industry? And how do we bring that all together with people's schedules? How do we bring that together and bring out something? There's a lot of video game podcasts out there. How do we do something a little different? And so I think it's really exciting. I, as someone who's been on most of the episodes of the DarkCast, in fact, I don't know if people know this, but Michael Perry was not the first host of the DarkCast. Back in 2003, there was actually a podcast called Joel's DarkCast, which was just me talking to myself for 20 minutes, and I have deleted those episodes because they are quite bad. But this is, it's had many identities, and I think what's really exciting is I can tell you for a fact that the people on DarkStation, the 20-plus people that work for DarkStation right now, love video games, and I am super excited to hear what a lot of them have to say about so many different things in the industry.
Yeah, so basically, when I made a huge career change, and I did not have time to do the DarkCast anymore, which, like, when we were talking back and forth on Twitter, and when you were like, hey, I think... like, I don't think you can do this. Like, we need to step back from the DarkCast. And, like, I remember seeing those words, and it hit me because when I read them, I knew they were true. But, like, it just, like, was this awful decision that I didn't really have to make. Like, I couldn't do the podcast
Which,
anymore.
by the way, just a little insider baseball there. I didn't send you that message for almost a week. I had written it out many times. And, like, when you put, anyone that's listening right now knows when you put a lot of time and love into something, it is really hard sometimes to know when the right point is to say, hey, we can't do this anymore. And so I struggled to even send that off to you. And I think now, looking back, it was the right decision because you can even hear it in both of, if you actually listen to some of the last episodes, the energy was starting to get real low around the podcast. I think we had all felt, Brian, you, myself, all felt like we had kind of lost what our focus was. And so we're hoping over the last year and a half, we've kind of found kind of that new sharpened tool that we're watching here today.
Yeah, so one of the things that I really wanted that whole time was to have more voices on the DarkCast. And again, like I said, you can't. It's really hard to schedule 5 people for 2 hours. So we're launching. This is the new DarkCast episode 1. And we've got a brand new format that we're going to be bringing. So instead of having kind of these long-winded roundtable discussions with me and multiple other people, it's going to be more kind of short one-on-one conversations with me and one other person like we're doing right now. So the idea is that we'll have more voices on the podcast so that we can have more differing opinions because, like you said, just having, 2 or 3 people that generally agree about video games, it's a fun conversation to have on our end, but I think as far as listening to it, it's like, well, like this this isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So and what I really want to do is talk about some relevant topics, some current topics, but then talk about them in a way that's not necessarily just, hey, the new Assassin's Creed game is really good, you should go play it, because in a few months' time, like nobody's worried about that conversation anymore. That conversation is not necessarily worth listening to anymore. So trying to kind of take different parts of video games and talk about them in a way that if you find our podcast in a year, that episode is still worth listening to.
And that's how podcasts have evolved, right? I mean, they started as almost current events, news, and like discussions of the day, and there's still great podcasts that do that. Some of my favorite video game podcasts are ones that are like, hey, we're playing, to your point, we're playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey today. But Dark Station, we can't compete with the IGNs of the world, the GameSpots, the Waypoints, the Polygons, who are full-time on this. So what we can do, though, is bring perspective. And I think that's really, really exciting. And it's not just perspective on, is this game, should you go buy this game, which I'm sure we will do from time to time. But like,
absolutely,
what is our perspective on, the current state of video game developers? What is the current state of just different ideas in video games? Like, are we going to see a revolution in the next 10 years on the way video games are made? One of the things that's happened big time in the last year and a half since we've been off is when our last podcast went, I don't even know if people were talking yet about battle royales.
No, that's what. So I didn't even realize that until somebody was asking me about the podcast that I record. It's like, do you talk about PUBG? And I was like, no, we don't. And he was like, well, how? And I'm like, because we've been on hiatus since before PUBG was a thing.
Yeah, that is mine.
And that's only a year and a half, but it's exploded.
And also, who's talking about PUBG still?
I don't know. That was a couple months ago. So, but yeah, Fortnite. Like, my nephew plays Fortnite, and it's nuts. There's dances. It's crazy. Call of Duty has a battle royale system in it. Telltale has closed since we've been around.
Well,
or
we
been
were
gone.
Podcast. Now I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've gotten this. Well, but part of what that's shown us, and some of the things that we've seen with Rockstar Games and the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, we've gotten kind of a better glimpse into the world of game development just in a short amount of time. Like, that was within maybe a month or so.
Right. It's almost something that
no story breaks.
Right. It's one of those things that we knew was there. We knew, like, you knew there was a problem there, but then within a month, like you said, you had 2 huge stories, one with the closure of Telltale and the other of an offhanded remark about the time in which, how much time per week game developers were putting in. And I think it's brought up some really interesting kind of discussions, and I think one we'll probably have here about, what do these guys need to guys and gals need to unionize? Do they what are right ways to treat developers? Because the turn and burn right now of developers out there is insane, and something that both of us in very different professions right now I can't imagine knowing that once I complete something I'm so passionate about that my job could be gone the next day. Like, the day after its release, I'm no longer needed, and is my job still safe? Like, that's got to be a terrifying place to be. So interesting how that's all kind of broken in the last month.
Indeed. Indeed. And so many big games have released in the past year and a half, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about them in different ways, from Spider-Man to God of War to Mario and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and like there's so many things that we have to discuss, and I'm really excited to have a venue once again to kind of talk about them in a different way. So just to give people an idea of what the show is going to be, it's going to be a handful of shorter conversations, probably 10 to 20 minutes per conversation, being an hour to an hour and a half long show. And we're going to release that show every 2 weeks instead of trying to do it every week. Again, we're not Polygon, we're not IG, and we can't just kind of cram out content like that. We want to make sure that what we're making is the best that we can make. So we're going to have shorter conversations about hopefully some really impactful topics in video games. And this is just the first section in that. We've got more to come in this very episode and in future episodes. But I'm really excited for it, and I'm glad that I'm in a place where I can talk about video games again, and I'm glad I'm in a place where I'm excited to make a podcast about talking about video games again instead of being worried about what that's going to be. Yeah. So I think the year and a half long hiatus has done me good. I think it's done the website good, and I think it's time for the DarkCast to return.
Let's do it. Let's get this ball rolling. And as always, we want your feedback. So as we go, please let us know what you guys think. If there's things you want to see different, topics you want covered, guests that you really like having on, all that kind of stuff. We really would love the feedback, because this is going to be a completely new look and feel for the DarkCast. So we're going to definitely be finding our footing as we go. So we're excited, but also realize that we're not going to be perfect out of the gate. You know what? Let's okay. All right. Well, with that, let's jump into it then.
All right. Well, that does it for this segment. We'll be back in just a moment as I talk to somebody else. But as of right now, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a surprise to both of us.
All right, and welcome to our next segment here on the DarkCast 2.0. We don't know what we're doing yet. This is all crazy and changing behind the scenes. Who knows what this segment is, or actually we do know what this segment is, but who knows what the next segment will be. But with me today, or right now for this session, I don't even know how to introduce these segments. This is so weird.
Alan,
just
listen to your heart. Yes, hello.
Alan, you're here with me.
I am here with you.
You're Alan Kessinger.
I am, yes, last time I checked.
We have been podcasting for 7 years? Something like that?
Sounds about right.
You haven't been on the DarkCast for a long time, but then again, neither has anybody else. So, jokes. Anyway.
It is great to be back, though, that's for sure.
It is. It is indeed. And what a time to be back. About the time that we're relaunching this is the launch of a little-known game that takes place in the Wild Wild West. And, Alan, you did the review on that.
That's right, yeah. Of course, we're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2, a Rockstar joint. And it's really exciting. The review went up on the embargo was up for it on the 25th of October, and being able to finally get that out was the most cathartic experience, because I've had to sit on all of that for about over a week and some change. I got the review code from Rockstar the Tuesday before. That was helped me out with that. That wasn't this week. That was the 16th. That was the 16th. So basically, I've been playing the game since then. Sworn to secrecy. Had to change some privacy settings on the console to show that I wasn't playing it, which, I mean, makes total sense. But there were so many things I was doing and seeing in there that all I wanted to do was, like, get on Twitter and just say, oh my god, guys, did you see this? Did you see that? And then had to remind myself, oh yeah, no, they can't because no one else is legally playing this yet. So... just really struggling with it because I like to talk to people about games, and this is the first time I think for a game this huge where I was in it with other major outlets. The game wasn't out. It was great because that meant there was no way to be influenced by other people's reviews, because that's always the danger you run of, like, oh, I need to go online and get some information about this. Like, sometimes I like to throw in little tidbits of history or background, and it's like, oh yeah, when did this game came out, or like what was the big bad guy's name, the character name from the last game, and then you stumble upon, it's like, oh, here's this 4-star review, or here's this 2-star review. I'm like, what's what's going on? Maybe I'll try and take a peek. But yeah, that's always so hard. So to kind of come at this with like no influence was great. But again, fast forward it to October 25th. The embargo is up. All the reviews are getting out, and people are getting more excited because the game comes out tomorrow, the 26th. And because of that, I decided to start the game over because I wanted to be able to experience it with everybody else, and also too without having to rush through it like I did before and not get a chance to stop and smell the roses, because man, there are some open world roses in this game that need to be stopped and sniffed. That's for sure.
Nice. Open world roses. I like it. So one of the things that I've been reading online is that this is not your typical open world game. And when I say typical open world game, I mean your Ubisoft open world game, which has really kind of permeated the whole scene. Once upon a time, Rockstar was the king of all open-world games, and they have kind of been usurped in at least quantity by Ubisoft, because all of their games, in my opinion, this may be a controversial opinion, but all of their games are now exactly the same. They just take place in different time periods and or have different point of views, but... Far Cry is a first-person Ghost Recon. Ghost Recon is a military setting for Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is an ancient Egyptian or Greece or Italy or whatever version of something else. Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
There you go. I totally forgot about Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
And there's all these little things. I mean, you could point to simple stuff like... just the fact that there's so many icons on the screen,
right? And the whole,
or just the whole like radio tower.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say the radio towers and the Assassin's Creed equivalent is synchronizing the towers, which again the whole synchronizing thing, probably doesn't even matter. That language doesn't even matter for that series anymore. And yes, absolutely. I mean, any I mean, barring Rayman Legends or Origins at this point, there is you'd be hard pressed to find a Ubisoft game that doesn't have stuff that started with Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, years ago, like years and years and years ago. So,
and I feel like a lot of that stuff is kind of surface. I feel like there's a deeper connection to all these, and I'm not even sure what exactly it is, but because something like Spider-Man has it's got a lot of icons on the screen, and it does have radio towers, which I think are dumb, but like it still doesn't it doesn't quite feel the same as that Ubisoft stuff, but even I would say that like Horizon is an incredibly Ubisoft open world game.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is how does Red Dead Redemption 2 kind of differ? I feel like it's both trying to do a throwback of old school open world games, which again, Rockstar kind of pioneered. But then also, I feel like some of the stuff it's trying to move forward with. Where do you think it does either of those things?
Well, I think as far as a throwback is concerned, this game is built like, and I mentioned this phrase in the review, but this is wholly built with the Rockstar playbook. It is using the open world formula that like can be traced as far back as Grand Theft Auto 3 for the PlayStation 2, where you're presented with an open world that's just kind of laid bare, and within that world there are these people that you interact with who give you missions, and they kind of send you along to do these missions, and then you go and find another person to do missions, and basically you exhaust their quest line and long enough for like a story beat to happen that may put you on a different island or sees you like assassinating that character on behalf of another character and stuff like that. So and with Rockstar games, I mean, there as the Grand Theft Auto games have gone along, there have been more things. They've come up with more things to do outside of those, but for the most part, it's like, here is the sandbox we have created that we are letting you in to play in. It's like, this is the world as we have envisioned it. You're playing in it. We are inviting you to participate in it. Whereas I think other open world games these days, like Witcher 3 and Assassin's Creed, to an extent, where the things that you do in this game affect the world. Like the way things stand at the beginning of the game are different, like towards the end, like something has happened. But with Red Dead, they have built this world. You're just a person in it. You're not going to be raising mountains. You're not going to be creating valleys. This world is going to exist long after you leave it. It's not like Assassin's Creed 2 where you spend the game rubbing shoulders with the Medici and Machiavelli and like there are, it's just this is just a little pocket universe of like a moment in time that really isn't like it's you're not finding Draymar ruins. You're not exploring dragon caves like you would in Skyrim. I mean, it's just kind of, it's surface level stuff, but they do a lot with that surface level stuff to make it more meaningful. And kind of going into the newer stuff, what Red Dead does is it does encourage exploration. And the first game did this through the random encounters, more or less to kind of give you something to do or see as you are moving from one objective to the another. Because for the most part in Red Dead Redemption 1, you go from Armadillo to go try and find that snake oil salesman, or you're riding down to Mexico to do missions for the revolutionaries. You're basically just scampering across desert, with the that's usually populated by the occasional animal, or these random events. Could be someone's being chased by a wild animal, or there's someone's trying to run away from the law and stuff like that. But Red Dead Redemption 2 does a better job of it because you'll be running around doing your own thing, and it has this new mechanic where if you hear a sound in the background, it pops up on your map as like a little sonar blip, kind of giving you the suggestion, hey, something's going on over there. If you want to go take a look, here's the general direction it came from. And what's great too is a lot of these random encounters are specific to the areas they exist in. So they try and find ways to really mix things up a little bit and make everything distinct and different. What's great, too, about many of these random encounters, sometimes you don't even have to do anything. There's one situation where I was riding across along a river and heard somebody singing, and so I followed their direction, and here's a guy just panning for gold. And he got more and more agitated with me the longer I stayed, but he was thinking that like I was going to try and steal his claim. You don't do anything. You don't have meaningful conversations with him. You can say hello and that's it, and he'll just go and do his thing. But conversely, it does a better job with those situations where you help somebody and you'll meet them up later along the way. I ran into a guy who was suffering from a snake bite, and basically my options were either suck out the poison or just give him medicine. I just gave him medicine because it seemed like he got bit in a very compromising location. And about maybe 2 hours later, I stumbled into a town and found him sitting in front of a gun store talking about, oh, you'll never believe it. There's this guy who came by. He saved my life. Oh, look, there he is right now. And get to have this fun back and forth with him that ends with, hey, you know what? You did me a turn. I'm going to do one back to you. Drop into the gun store, buy a gun. It's on me. So I got something free out of it. Whereas Red Dead Redemption, it was either these sort of like pocket experiences of shoot this wild animal, shoot the rope from the tree to free the guy and stuff like that, with the occasional strangers where you do get to have meaningful conversations with them. I remember back to the young lady on the train who was in the beginning of the game. You kind of see her again. She's sick, but like someone was telling her to trust in holistic treatments, and it seemed like she was dying and stuff like that. But like, it does a lot more with these sort of experiences that makes it stand above from the original game. And then you have with Red Dead, it's a throwback to classic Rockstar, but they've found ways to improve upon it in their own way, which is great, because I think as far as this particular game goes, for the Red Dead franchise, I feel like it's done a lot more to make it feel more alive, more believable, more lived in, and sort of like a less, hey, let's throw some stuff in between to make sure the player doesn't get bored. If any of that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. But the thing that kind of caught my attention is you explained the story of the guy that, there was the guy panning for gold, and then there was the guy that got bit by the snake, you said? Mm-hmm. And then he gives you a reward later on. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if it's just the fact that the way that Red Dead is doling stuff out feels more natural, because I can totally see that entire scenario in any other game where you've got a question mark or you've got some kind of icon on your mini-map or on your compass at the top of the screen. You follow it to that guy, you save him, right, and then you complete a quest and you get a reward of a free gun from it. So so is it just that stuff feels more baked in and you're not just picking it from a menu? Is that what makes it different?
It certainly does. Yes, it does have that sort of feel, especially since you open the map. And I actually found this really refreshing in this modern age of Ubisoft games. But you open up the in-game map, and there are no icons. I mean, there's like a legend that you'll see icons like for towns. You'll see like, here's the icon for the saloon, here's the icon for the butcher, here's the icon for the general store. But I mean, Assassin's Creed Odyssey this year kind of gave me bad memories of Assassin's Creed Unity, because
I think anybody expected that,
right? Well, and I
twist ending.
I say that only because you open up that map and there are question marks everywhere. There are synchronization points. It's got map barf on it, is what it is. All of these all of these icon, like in Witcher 3, that map is enough to give you a heart attack, because like you're already spending hours and hours on that game, and then it's like, well, let me kind of see where I am, and then you look at the map, you pull back, and like, oh my mother of God, there are all these bulletin boards, there are all these question marks, and a lot of the question marks, same as in Witcher and in Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey, some of them are just like location markers that inherently don't really offer anything, and it's just like, again, it gets so overwhelming. It gets really overwhelming, and plus it also kind of makes you think, it's like, well, okay, I go here, I'm going to expect something. Something's going to happen. Like if I go in Witcher 3, if I go to this abandoned village, 9 times out of 10, there are going to be either monsters or bandits I need to kill, which will then bring back the villagers, and they will kind of live in that town again. If I go to a question mark that's like one of those, like the power, what do you call them? Where you can get like a boost to your different signs and signals and stuff.
They're not just power stones, but they're like monoliths that you get abilities from.
Yeah,
you get an experience point, and you get like a boon to one of your abilities.
And usually sometimes there's like some sort of ghost hanging around that you have to take care of. And it's like, there are a lot of these, I know what I'm getting into. As far as Assassin's Creed, I know if I see a camp, there are going to be bandits in it, because it's always bandits. With
Places of Power.
Places of Power, yes, that's right. But with Red Dead Redemption, again, there's no map barf, so you don't know what's going on. So I think when you get situations where this guy comes out complaining about a snake bite, or one of my other favorite moments was passing by a chain gang that overpowers their captors. One of them shoots the lawman, keeping an eye on him, and they see you watching them, and the guy's like, "Hey, this ain't what it looked like." As the other guys are taking off their chains and taking off the clothes of the lawman to disguise themselves, but like there was nothing to kind of point me in the direction to see that. It's entirely possible you could miss that. It's entirely possible that you could miss the guy with the snake bite. And as a matter of fact, if you just let him go, like if you don't help him, you lose that opportunity for a boon. Maybe it'll find some other way to trigger it, but again, it's baked in such a degree that it always feels unsuspected and a surprise, because I'll be like doing a stranger mission, like I need to track down these old famous gunslingers, and along the way, I meet people, I get to talk with them, and it's done in such a way that you never expect it. You can go an entire trip from Valentine to like Emerald Ranch and not see anything, and not encounter anybody. But so it's done. I would say it's baked in a way that feels old-fashioned, but also really refreshing in this day and age where everything is pointed out to you on a map. I mean, it makes this world feel a lot more natural than any other open world game.
And I think that kind of extends to the game's use of cold and hunger and all that. That a lot of that kind of sounds like, again, I haven't played the game yet, but it sounds like your Don't Starves and your other like survival games, but kind of lessened
in a way, because
just to try to immerse you in the world. Again, just trying to make things feel natural.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, if anything, the weather changes and stuff like that, I kind of see it as a flimsy excuse for, oh, this is great, I gotta go to the general store and buy some new clothes. Because the whole cold and hunger thing isn't nearly as invasive as one might expect. It's not like Breath of the Wild, where if you go into like the cold cold areas without proper protection, it's going to drain your health and kill you. You can.
That's good.
You can still. Yeah, you can. I mean, you can wear clothes that don't fit the temperature, and really what it does, it affects how efficiently your health and stamina regenerates. It adds a nice kind of bit of flavoring to it, but it's not nearly as bad as Breath of the Wild. And bad is the wrong word. It's nothing as involved as Breath in the Wild, to the point where you have to stop and go back and make sure you get the right kind of food or clothing or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's a nice feature. Again, just kind of makes the world a little bit more involved, but again, it's not going to halt your gameplay at all.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that we could probably talk about this game for the next 4 days.
And I kind of almost want to, because again, it's so nice to be able to say all of this stuff. I am more than prepared to just barf up anything you want to know, because again, this was the hardest embargo to sit through. This has been so cathartic.
I'm glad, Alan. You made it. Congratulations. You survived. Red Dead is here, and so is the DarkCast. We're back. If you hadn't noticed, because this is the first episode in a year and a half. Woohoo! I'm not going to stop talking about that because I'm so excited. But yeah, that does it for this segment. We will be back in just a moment to discuss something else, because again, I don't have any of this planned. I don't know what we're talking about next. Woohoo!
Could be rabbits. Could be apples. It could be anything. Or apple-shaped rabbits.
All right, everybody. The DarkCast, it's still back, because this is segment number 3 of the new episode 1. Isn't that crazy?
Are we actually restarting the numbering?
We're restarting the numbering.
Oh my god.
So joining me right now is longtime co-host of the DarkCast,
That's right.
Brian Tyler.
Yes.
How you doing, Brian? It's good to hear your voice.
It's nice to talk again. It's been a very long time since I've talked, so we'll have to deal with this, and we'll move from there.
Does your family not let you talk, Brian? Is this the only time that you get to talk?
It's either really low so that I don't wake my kids, or very loud because they've done something bad. There's no normal side. There's been no normal talking. So
excellent. Well, we've got the best topic to talk about today, and that is superheroes. Now, if people have listened to the DarkCast before, they know that you and I can ramble and wax prolifically about superhero crap. I'm gonna try not to do that.
I think what we could do, I think that we do that. We get that down, and then through careful editing, you take out the rest of the stuff that we're going to end up and just put that on like a separate extra episode.
It'll be the post-credit sequence.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Because that works for superheroes.
You can stop now, it's fine, but if you want to keep going, this is what you're in for.
All right, so basically what I wanted to talk to you about, a lot of things have happened with superheroes since we last spoke. Thor 3 came out,
yes.
Justice League came out, Black Panther, Avengers, Avengers 3 came out.
Yes.
Spider-Man, the video game, took the world by storm.
It was fantastic. Someone named Brian gave it a 5 out of 5 on DarkStation.com.
I heard about that, and I would have to agree there.
Yeah.
There was the CW Crisis on Earth X, which was so much schlocky fun. It was amazing.
Great. Nazi Earths.
Oh man, that was good. So a lot of really cool stuff has happened in the past year. But if we rewind to a year ago or a year and a half ago or so, I was not super happy with where video games, with where superhero stuff was in general. And it's not for a lack of quality, because at that point, Spider-Man had just come out. Doctor Strange had been around for a little while. Captain America Civil War was around. And all those are good movies. But I don't know, I feel like, especially with the Marvel Universe, and I don't know if this just affected me to, like, all superhero things, but when I got done with both Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, like, they're objectively good movies, but when I got out of those movies, I felt like I had already seen them.
Okay. I've heard that about Spider-Man. I thought Doctor Strange was different enough that I felt kind of a real interest there. But at the same time, I could certainly see. I mean, that was absolutely a standard hero's journey.
Right. Well, and it was
especially the Marvel heroes, where they start out as like jerks and then find themselves.
Right. Exactly. There's only a couple types of Marvel heroes. You've got the jerk that becomes a good guy. You've got the guy that never changes. So, you know, your Paul Rudd. I can't remember his name.
Scott Lang. Yep.
There you go. You know, he's just a good, like, even though he's a thief, he's just a good guy. And nothing really,
he has a good heart. Yep.
Nothing challenges his character. And I would say for a lot of Captain America, like, he has to make tough choices, but at the same time, you never doubt that he's going to make those choices. You never think that he's going to go the other way. And Peter Parker is kind of that way too.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe it wasn't until Black Panther that I saw a Marvel hero that was a good guy to begin with. Like, he was a stand-up dude. And then he saw something that caused him to change his ideology, and he became a better man.
Yep, absolutely.
Which, that was really cool to see. But, so before that, you've got, I don't know, I got done with Spider-Man, and I just felt like I'd seen the movie before. Even though the Vulture's one of my favorite villains in the Marvel Universe.
Michael Keaton was great.
He was great.
Yes.
But, I don't know, I was kind of bummed out. And then there were definitely bad superhero things. BVS, Batman vs. Superman, still bums me out to this day.
So there's a great, for anybody who has the time, Movie Bob put together basically like a 3.5 hour why that movie is so bad. That if you ever wanted to just like have it broken down for you in a myriad of ways that actually not only make sense logically, but are like, yeah, no, this is, no matter how you defend it, that movie is just terrible. That has it for you.
Yeah, and there's a podcast somewhere where we talk about it for 2 hours.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
It's in the After Dark feed, so it's not actually on the website right now. I'm trying to find it. It's somewhere. It'll return.
It's there. Exactly. It'll find its way back up.
But yeah, that movie still bums me out. And then Iron Fist was awful. I didn't finish that. I didn't watch Iron Fist season 2.
The Defenders. I haven't watched it yet.
The Defenders is one of the most disappointing things that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly not up to the level of the other stuff. In fact, like, watching that, I am just now getting back to the Marvel Netflix stuff.
Me too. I took, like, my interest in the Netflix MCU took a nosedive after Defenders. And it wasn't the worst. It just wasn't good.
No, I didn't. You know, it's like, looking back on it, it wasn't. Considering what the cinematic stuff that team up was, to kind of see like a lesser team up, and really like where not all of the parts worked, and I kind of like, you know, not to keep kind of harping on him, but I really blame Danny Rand for that. That just Finn Jones is not a good cut for that, and no matter what they tried to do, no matter how they tried to kind of get through that, it just it didn't work.
Yeah.
I am interested. I am eventually catching up on the Marvel stuff. I want to catch up on Luke Cage. I know that Danny does show up for like an episode or two there, which harkens back to the whole like Heroes for Hire thing in the comics. So I want to see. I liked the way that they worked together. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think that was the first time that Marvel messed up.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, you could say what you will about, you know, like, maybe having seen it all before or feeling that way, because a lot, you know, you only have so many heroes' journeys you can go on.
Right.
And that's totally understandable. That's absolutely a thing. But as far as like messing up Iron Fist, that was it.
Yeah.
They really they misjudged either what they were capable of, or they misjudged who they had and what they were going to get out of him, and he was not up to the rest of the quality that everybody else was.
Yeah. And honestly, as far as Defenders go, the thing that I liked the most, I really liked the interplay between Daredevil and Luke Cage.
Yes,
because in a lot of ways, those two characters exemplify the relationship that Batman and Superman should have.
Absolutely.
Like, Daredevil is so Batman in that show, and Luke Cage is just this great guy that everybody loves, and bullets bounce off of him, and he's like this shining light in the middle of all this darkness.
He's just there trying to do the right thing.
Right, and it's just they're... Oh, man, that was my favorite part of the Defenders.
What 100%, and that was great. I also liked the interplay between everybody else and Jessica Jones. Mm-hmm. That she's
just over everybody else's bullshit.
She's over, and you know what? She is probably like the most real out of all of those because she really has just kind of had it. She just wants to be left the fuck alone. Yep. She is done with like people with mind control and other people with superpowers. Just let me do my job. Let me go get a drink. Let me have sex every so often. Just get me out of here. Yeah. So, you know. But
on that end, Daredevil Season 3 is fantastic if you haven't watched it.
I have not. I'm committed to watching them in order. But yeah, I'm getting there. Right now I'm going through The Punisher.
Okay. I still haven't watched that, so.
Yeah.
I've heard
that's
really good.
It's really good so far. I'm about halfway through. It is very into a lot more of the mental stuff. There has been 1 or 2 gunfights, but most of it is just kind of Frank dealing with stuff, and Micro gets introduced. So the guy from the comics kind of helps him with stuff, and the interplay between them is good because he's an ex-CIA spook who kind of went through the same thing that Frank did, except his family is still alive.
Interesting.
And so there's a whole like real interplay between them, and you really get a chance to see like just how messed up Frank is.
Nice.
That there is not a moment that goes by where this cat is not seeing his family pop up somewhere, and I can understand totally being tortured and the weird choices that he makes in trying to make that go away and get whatever justice he can. So far, and John Bernthal completely freaking owns that thing.
He does. He did a fantastic job in Daredevil Season 2.
Yeah,
I'm glad they picked him up for at least one season. I think right now they're committed to a Season 2 Punisher and a Season 3 of Jessica Jones, from what I understand.
Yes, and supposedly they're going to do a Midnight Suns. So from what I read, we're going to get another Blade, or at least like a kind of more supernatural edge stuff.
Okay.
So I think we're going to get a Blade. I want to say that they're going to do a Ghost Rider. With the same guy who was in
on Netflix, or is that okay? Because
on Netflix, yep.
Because what I've been reading is that with Luke Cage getting canceled after Iron Fist, that it's like stuff is kind of possibly going off quietly so that Disney can pick it up.
Disney's doing its own thing. But that was the last thing I heard. Whether or not they move it or what they want to do, that's. Obviously, it's up to Disney and whatever they decide.
See, I don't know. I think a Blade TV show could work, but at the same time, I would really like to see a Blade movie in the style of Logan, where you just completely forget about Blade Trinity, and you have an old man Blade passing off the torch of the Daywalker or whatever to somebody else.
Someone else.
I think it could be really good. You could bring Wesley Snipes and his crazy ass for one more movie.
Yeah, he's got to pay some taxes, so he's doing it.
I think that would be really cool. But, the weird thing is, and also we can't, again, mention it earlier, but the Marvel's Spider-Man game by Insomniac Studios, so good.
Yes.
So good. Best Spider-Man thing ever. Probably not really, but so good.
No, I will absolutely call that. That is 100. Like honestly, that is right up there. I consider that it. I might actually like it better than Arkham Asylum.
Wow. Okay.
Which is saying something.
That is. But so that brings us to now. It's November, it's 2018, and I'm excited for what superhero stuff there is to come. We've got the Elseworlds thing coming with CW. There's got to be a Spider-Man 2 that's coming out from Insomniac.
There is.
I mean, that's...
Oh yeah, they come on. With the way they hinted at it at the end. Yeah.
But I mean, just the sales, everything about it, like that's going to be the next Arkham series. That's going to be the popular superhero thing for a few years, hopefully. You know, I liked Infinity War. I was a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but I'm worried that the deaths that happen in that movie aren't going to, they're just going to be wiped away, basically. And I want death to be meaningful whenever death isn't a thing. So, I don't know. I'm a little worried about that. Captain Marvel looks cool, but it also feels, I don't know, there's something about it that feels like Green Lantern. I don't think it's going to be that bad or anything.
I don't think anything could be that bad.
But there's
I really don't. Even,
like, just watching the trailer, it's just like, oh, this, like, something about this just feels familiar. It's weird. I don't know. But honestly, I think the biggest problem with the end of Infinity War is just like, well, two of those characters already have sequels announced. That doesn't work, Marvel.
In the way I look at that stuff is that I'm obviously I'm in it for the journey.
Sure.
I want to see where it goes. I want to see how they answer those questions. To me, and that's why, like, I tend to like stuff that doesn't always work for other people works for me a little bit more. Just because when I'm there watching it, that's what I'm there doing. I don't care that they've already announced. You know, Peter survives. They've already finished filming the second movie.
Right.
I want to know how we get to that point, and I'm there. I want to be there for the surprises because, Peter Parker lives. Okay, cool. How do we get there? What else happens?
Sure.
Why does he live? Is something sacrificed to get him there?
The thing I'm worried about is, just making that feel like it's worth it. Because I feel
exactly.
Right. And that's what I'm worried about. It's not going to happen. But at the same time, when I look at an Infinity War, when I look at Thor 3, when I look at Black Panther, those movies feel like a new era of Marvel, where when I look back on it, I know this isn't true. Can really only be said by somebody that knows a lot about superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But from Iron Man 2 until kind of Thor 3, I feel like all of the Marvel movies were kind of the same. I know that they weren't. And when you look at those superhero movies, especially compared to other superhero movies and what they were willing to do as a movie studio, not a comic book thing, not a superhero thing, because all the things that they've done in this movie universe it's not new if you know superhero cartoons and comics and video games. And so, I don't know, I feel like when you're watching it, it's like they're doing all these crazy things that nobody's ever done with movies before.
Yep.
But people have done them 1,000 times with superheroes. But when you get to Thor, like, Thor just kind of upends the way that I've ever seen Thor. I haven't read, like, really any Thor comic books. And from what I know about the first two Thor movies, those are pretty representative of, like, what Thor is like.
Yeah.
And then you get to Thor 3, and it's Thor 3, Guardians
wonderful.
of the Galaxy. It's amazing.
Mikey Newman in his movies with Mikey stuff, he called it was the ultimate reboot.
Yeah, it is.
It took a character that really wasn't that interesting, really, beyond just like, oh, he is a pirate angel. That really wasn't that interesting then, and it turned him around. It gave him a personality. It let Thor be like the Thor version of Loki.
Right.
And since we all loved Loki, it just gave him, it let him come out. And Chris Hemsworth is a funny dude.
Yeah. You just never got to find that out in the other movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Until
Taika
got
a hold of it.
Henry Cavill. He's got a personality. We just haven't got to see it.
Does he?
He does. Go watch Man vs. Uncle. Or Man from
vs.
Uncle. Man from
That's
Uncle, not Man
from
versus.
Uncle is where Henry Cavill's personality is.
It's the only time in the history
all
of
there.
it's all there.
Okay.
But then, like I said, with Black Panther, you have a new kind of hero that's not just a jerk that becomes a good guy or a good guy that stays a good guy. He's a good guy that actually becomes better through what his villain's ideology is. Mm-hmm. And then you've got, Avengers, which, again, doesn't feel like a new superhero thing, but it is definitely a new superhero movie thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I guess just because Marvel is such a big spot on the superhero map right now, or not even Marvel, the MCU, that kind of my good feelings about that just spread to good feelings about all superhero stuff right now.
Okay. Sure.
And also, I've just completely let go of the DC movies. I don't care.
I don't.
I haven't.
I never watched. I still haven't watched Wonder Woman. I really want. I will get to that one. I haven't watched. And I haven't watched Justice League at all.
Me neither. I have no desire to see Aquaman. I have an inkling of a desire to see Shazam, but that's really just because I like Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the show Chuck. But I think it's just emotionally I'm not weighed down by the DCU anymore. And so I'm able to just be like, what, you go be stupid. That's fine. No skin off my back. I feel like I cared about that far too much for a while. But that's what happens when you ruin, my two favorite superheroes.
Yeah,
So
no,
I,
yep, 100%.
I hold a grudge for a long time.
Yeah, if you're gonna make me not care enough about Batman that I don't watch a movie that has Batman in it, you've done something wrong.
Done something terrible.
And that's kind of where I was with I just don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, no, that's what I still haven't seen it either. So
I've got too much other good stuff to watch,
right,
and stuff that's gonna hold up with stuff that's gonna take my time that I just don't need to even worry about that stuff.
Very true. So what has you excited for the next, I don't know, however long of superhero stuff, Brian?
Definitely the Elseworld stuff. I love the fact that they're, even if it is a weird, maybe otherworld Gotham, I have no idea that we're gonna get to see it, and I want to see how Infinity War does turn out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited for Captain Marvel, just because of all the rest of the stuff that comes with that. We get we get to see Phil Coulson back on the big screen, because he's going to be young again. We get to see a really de-aged Samuel L. Jackson with two eyes.
You don't have to do a whole lot to de-age Samuel L. Jackson.
You don't. Yeah, that man hasn't changed a whole lot. But I mean, you look at those pictures, and you're like, yeah, all right, let's do this. And Michael Douglas is like, I will do any movie where you're going to do that to me. So let's go. I want to know I want to know if what they're going to do is time related. I've seen a lot of good, a lot of good guesses come that way about how maybe the time stone's involved. How when Doctor Strange gave the time zone to Thanos, that the time stone was actually lit up, which means it was being used at the time.
Yeah, I've heard somebody said that the version that Thanos got is actually from the future or something like that.
Yeah, he sent it forward,
and it's like that. That could be interesting.
Yep.
I hope the quantum realm plays a part in it.
Yeah, absolutely. With the time vortices that she mentioned, before they were disintegrated, it's like, I want to know how people come back from that. I want to know how they were planning to do another Guardians of the Galaxy before that got put on hold with all the James Gunn shit. I don't think the new Joker origin movie with Joaquin Phoenix is necessary. No, but he looks kind of cool doing it. So
I do like the look. Honestly, somebody pointed this out at some point. I don't remember. The DC universe has done Elseworlds and created new universes, split them off, diverged, reconverged, rebooted stuff many more times than Marvel ever has. Marvel's been much better at having a consistent, congruent universe than
Marvel's not
DC.
afraid to go, okay, hey, there is a multiverse. This is going to happen on a different Earth.
Right.
That is what it is.
There are plenty of things that happen on other Earths as well, but with DC, all of the other Earths exist in the same universe that our universe existed, and it gets real crazy. But they've bent stuff. Like I said, they've retconned things so much. Honestly, at this point, I'm fine with DC not trying to do a cinematic universe, quote unquote, and just make a good Superman movie.
Yeah.
Make a good Batman movie. Don't have them connected. Doesn't matter.
Even if you want to, follow the damn Marvel playbook. Start with something small. Yeah. Start with something small that matters.
Yeah.
Make us care about somebody like Iron Man.
Sure.
You get us to do that. Look, we're already there for Batman and Superman. Don't start there.
Sure.
Do something worthwhile with Cyborg if you want to. We've already got a Flash. We're already there for that one. Give me somebody else. Get us to care about somebody small. Bring us into the world that way, and then go up from there. We're already there for the big two, for the big three now, because they've obviously been successful as Wonder Woman.
Right.
It's like, let's start there, put in the work, don't just expect the reward.
Sure. I think, yeah.
We would all love that. I cannot think of a world where if you do put in the work and that is there and you're willing to actually commit to the comic bookiness of it, that it is not successful.
Yeah. And again, at this point, that's what I want. But honestly, I'm okay if I don't get it.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, we've already got that with the CW shows.
Exactly. I've got a Superman that I really like. I have a Batman that wears a green hood that I really like.
Legends is Legends. That show is just fantastic.
It is.
It was great. That continues to be the one show that I have zero doubts knows what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Knows exactly what it is going for. Like whoever is show running that show, I know they're not going to be in the crossover,
right?
Because apparently they've only got 16 or 17 episodes this season, and the showrunner was like, "No, we've got way too much to do. We're just not going to be able to fit that in and make it believable."
So what I've heard is apparently they're doing their own crossover with past versions of themselves at the same time.
I'm down for that. That's awesome. Multiple legends.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that's the stuff that I'm excited. I don't like past Avengers. We'll see what happens. I know they've got other stuff planned. I know they just finished the next Spider-Man, which is supposed to jumpstart whatever the next phase is. But I want to see how they resolve that. Mm-hmm. I trust them because they haven't messed it up yet. So we'll see what happens.
Very true.
We'll see what happens.
We will. I mean, we don't really have any other option but to
exactly.
wait.
We have Yeah, it's not like we have a choice.
Yep. Well, Brian, that does it for this section. There's probably many parts that listeners aren't going to hear, but I had a great conversation,
Exactly.
and I'm glad we were able to sit down and talk about superhero crap. Well, that does it for our inaugural episode of the DarkCast. Again, if you want to find out more information about the podcast, head on over to darkstation.com. There you can find the DarkCast interviews. You can check out our latest in video game reviews, previews, and features. You can follow us on Twitter at darkstation_com. You can find us on Facebook. Email us at podcast@darkstation.com. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. There's many ways for you to get in touch with us. Like we said in the first segment, we would love to hear from you if you've got suggestions or ideas, criticisms, whatever about the show. This is a new direction for the podcast. We're really excited about it, and we hope you like it too. So, for Joel Zerlup, Alan Kessinger, and Brian Tyler, I'm Jonathan Miley. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, have a good one.